Dusk settled over the horizon as Thomas, a lone traveler, steered his dusty Jeep into the unknown. He had lost his way hours ago, the GPS a mocking blank slate. That's when he spotted it, a sign barely visible in the fading light. Welcome to Silent Hollow. Relief washed over him, replaced quickly by a prickle of unease. As he rolled into town, a strange quiet enveloped him. Streetlights flickered to life, casting long, dancing shadows on the deserted streets.
This is eerie. Where is everyone?
It was unsettling, the lack of the usual evening bustle. He pulled up to a diner, its neon sign flickering erratically. A bell chimed over the door as he stepped inside, the sound jarring in the oppressive silence. A few people sat hunched over their meals, their faces obscured by the dim light. No one looked up at his entrance. He walked up to the counter, the scent of stale coffee heavy in the air, and took a seat.
Excuse me. Hello? Can anyone tell me where I can find a motel?
The silence stretched, thick and heavy, punctuated only by the ticking of a clock on the wall. The patrons remained frozen, their gazes fixed on some unseen point beyond him. Unease turned to full-blown alarm.
Is anyone here?
Silence. He slammed his hand on the counter, the sound sharp and demanding. The patrons flinched but remained mute. Their eyes, vacant and hollow, finally flickered towards him. Terror, cold and sharp, pierced through his fear. These people weren't just being rude, they were terrified. He fled the diner, his heart pounding against his ribs. The silence followed him, chased him down the deserted street. He needed answers. He found himself drawn towards the only building with lights on. A library, its windows glowing like beacons in the oppressive darkness. He pushed open the heavy oak doors and stepped inside, the scent of aged paper and dust filling his nostrils. An old woman sat behind a desk, her gaze fixed on a book.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can you tell me what's going on in this town?
The book was ancient, its leather cover cracked and faded. He opened it carefully, the pages brittle with age. It was a diary of sorts, filled with frantic scribblings and faded ink drawings. The entries dated back decades, a chilling chronicle of the town's descent into silence. He devoured the words, each sentence a brushstroke painting a picture of a town gripped by fear. It spoke of a tragedy so horrific, so unspeakable, that the townspeople were cursed to never speak of it again. Those who dared to break the silence were met with a fate worse than death. The diary ended abruptly, the last page blank but for a single chilling sentence scrawled across it in a shaking hand. Silence is our only salvation.
What happened here?
His blood ran cold. He had stumbled into a nightmare, a town held captive by its own dark history. He had to know the truth. What event could be so terrifying that it would warrant such a curse? What had happened in Silent Hollow? He found himself drawn back to the diner. The patrons were gone, leaving behind an unsettling emptiness. Behind the counter, he discovered a loose floorboard. Beneath it lay a small wooden box.
Inside the box, I found a collection of old photographs and newspaper clippings, yellowed with age. I spread them out on the counter, my heart pounding in my ears. The photographs showed a vibrant town, filled with life and laughter. Children played in the streets. Families picnicked in the park. Couples strolled hand in hand. It was the antithesis of the silent, haunted place I found myself in. Then I saw it. A photograph, set apart from the rest. It showed a group of townspeople gathered in the town square, their faces contorted in expressions of sheer terror. In the center of the photo, a dark, swirling vortex seemed to rip through the very fabric of reality.
Decades ago, a meteor shower had rained down on Silent Hollow. But this was no ordinary meteor shower. These meteors brought with them something else. The newspaper articles spoke of disappearances, of strange lights and sounds emanating from the crash site. They spoke of a growing madness that gripped the townspeople, driving them to unspeakable acts.
I understood now. The silence wasn't just a curse. It was a defense mechanism, a desperate attempt to contain the darkness that had infected the town. To speak of the past was to invite it back, to unleash the horrors that lay dormant beneath the surface. I looked up from the photographs, my gaze drawn to the reflection in the dusty diner window. My heart lurched. My reflection stared back at me, but something was different. My eyes, they were changing, swirling with the same darkness that haunted the photographs. I could feel it taking root within me, the silence seeping into my bones. I had to leave, now. I stumbled out of the diner, the wooden box clutched tightly in my hands. I had to get help, had to warn someone about the darkness that festered in Silent Hollow. I drove away from Silent Hollow, leaving behind the silence and the secrets it held. but the town and its curse followed me, a shadow that haunted my every thought. I could still feel the weight of the silence pressing down on me, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of the world. I was forever changed, marked by the horrors I had witnessed, and I knew, with a chilling certainty, that the silence would never truly leave me.